Now that we have all these pages that we can more or less identify because they all have different headings on them, for example, the assessment page, we're ready to start assembling them into something that will start looking like the sample website that we've been looking at. Basically, our curriculum webs are going to be like puzzles. They're going to be made out of different pieces. So we're going to have a piece at the top with our curriculum web title. We're going to have a piece on the left with our navigation, and then we're going to have a piece on the right for our content. And basically, we're going to call all those pieces frames, and we're going to have a few of them on our pages. So basically, we're going to have a main frame 1, which is going to be the one that goes across the top and contains our header. We're going to have a main frame 2 that will contain everything else on the page. But that main frame 2 is going to be further subdivided into a subframe 1, subframe 1 of mainframe 2, and then a subframe 2. And these names are actually useful for the website we're going to use in order to create this code, but we're going to actually use names that will be more related to what these frames are going to contain, or where they are going to be. So for the one on at the top of the page, we're going to call it top. So that would be the mainframe 1. We're going to call it top. The mainframe 2, we're going to call it content. The subframe 1 of the mainframe 2, we're going to call nav. And then the subframe 2 of our mainframe 2, we're going to call main. And in order to create this code, we're actually going to go and use a website that will do that for us. So we're going to use www.bagism.com/frameshop, and this provides a few settings that we are going to use in order to write the code. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the settings for the mainframes, which is required, is set to 2 horizontal mainframes. And then here on the border, we're actually going to go and enter the 5. And even though it's a default value for them, we want to make sure that that attribute appears on that frame set tag. And then we're going to set the specifications for the 2 mainframes. Remember, we had mainframe 1 and a mainframe 2. Mainframe 1 and 2. So we're going to set those specifications. Mainframe 1 is going to be about 15% of the total of the screen. So if you have the 100% of height, then about a 1500 is what we're going to set aside, or should be around here. 15% should be set aside for that top frame, and we're going to call it top. Then the bottom frame is going to be 85%, and we're going to call it content. And we're not going to do anything with any of the other settings. Then we're going to go down into settings for the subframes of mainframe 1. And if you remember, this is mainframe 1 is the part on the top of the screen, and it did not have any subframes. So we're going to make sure that we leave it as 0 horizontal subframes. And then we want to further subdivide the mainframe 2. And we have to make sure that we have 2 vertical subframes. In this case, we want to make sure that we have the navigation subframe and then the main subframe. So on the case of this one, we're going to enter for subframe 2A, we're going to enter 25%, which means we want about 25% of the width of that screen to be dedicated to navigation. And we're going to call it nav. And then we want to have the remainder of the screen, which is 75%, dedicated to the main content. We're going to leave all the other um, specifications blank, and we're just going to go ahead and click on Frame Me. Basically what they do is that they more or less display what our website would look like. You can disregard this top frame here, which belongs to the actual website, and we would click on View Source so that we can take a look at the code that we have just generated. And this is the code right here.